Hello everyone. The agenda for today would be how we can get started with Python with minimal efforts, and then how do we print different statements, what are variables in Python, how do we take inputs in Python, then how do we process different data types, then conditional statements as in conditional blocks, looping statements, functions, pros and cons, and then lastly Q&A. In between as well, if you guys have any question, you can post it in the questions tab as I mentioned, and then I'll answer that. So what is Python? So as you must have known, Python is a high-level programming language, and it is procedure-oriented and object-oriented as well. But the main thing that sets Python apart from any other language is that it is very much like English, as in it's an English type of language. And that's why people are actually taking it up and then working with it, because the code written in Python are very easy to understand, that you will see in a while, and hence the popularity. So again, these are some features of Python, as it is an open source. So because it's an open source, there's a lot of support for every library that is available. So if you know what you're looking for, you can definitely find an answer for it, and you can take it to different places as well. When I say different places, you can migrate it to different platforms. So these are few features of Python, and this is what the trend of Python looks like. For past 2 years, you can see Python is definitely leading the charts. People are definitely liking Python a lot and getting into it. So before getting into Python, what I would like to show you guys is how to set up the environment, right? So before, we would not want to get into a conversation whether we'll be taking Python 2, Python 3, or anything like that, or installing Python for that matter, because we would not want to invest time there. So what you can do is, there's a cloud platform known as Google Colab, that is Google Collaboratory. So you just go to your Google search and look for Google Colab. As soon as you search for it, it will say welcome to Collaboratory. Just click on that, and it will open a notebook situation, which it should load now. So here, if you have any previous notebooks, it shows you that, but we are interested in clicking on new notebook. So as soon as you click on new notebook, it will load a new notebook format. So here, once you come here, first you need to click on connect. As soon as you click on connect, it will allocate you a virtual machine on which this code will run. So as soon as I write something over here, it will be connected to that virtual machine. It will execute that code on that virtual machine and then show the answer here. Okay. Now, meanwhile it's initializing. So it says connected now, right? So it shows you the RAM and disk utilization as well. So overall, it has provided 12.68 GB of RAM, which is way better than our systems right now, and 107 GB of storage and utilization as well. So we are currently using 0.7, 0.8 GB of given RAM and 36 GB of given storage to run the situation here, right? Now, if I click on settings, you can see there are different themes. You can select whatever theme you like. I have selected dark theme for now. And if we go here it talks about sections. So I'll talk about sections a little later in this session. It will make it more clear. Then you can search for code, as in inside code, you can search for specific keyword and then replace it with different keywords. Here, this is just variable inspection. We'll talk about this later in some later session, probably. And here is a folder structure. So this folder structure is not something that is available in your system. Here, Google provides you sample data set to work with, so that you don't have to go through a lot and try to get the data set and then start writing code on it. Instead of that, you can just use this data set and practice whatever you feel. Right. So this is a little introduction about the environment. Now coming to writing the code. So first, thing that we always write is hello world, right? Whenever we start learning any new language, it is hello world that we start with. So that is what we are going to start with here as well. So here, if I want to execute this cell, so I've written this code in Python. So as you can see, print hello world, fairly like English. Now, if I want to execute this, what I can do is I can go over here and I can like move the cell over here. But if I want to execute it and I click on this, it will execute the cell. Now, if I want to execute it like without going over there, what else I can do is I can hit Control Enter. As soon as I hit Control Enter, it will execute the cell. And if say I want to execute this cell and then move on to the next cell, as in create a new cell, right? If I want to create a new cell right now, what I'll have to do is I'll have to click here, right? But say if I say print hi from ATH team, and if I want to say execute this cell and then move on to next cell or create next cell and then start writing over there, what I can do is I just hit shift enter, and that is what will happen, right? So it says hi from ATH team. Now, if I want to say do an operation, what I'll do is say I can say hi, my name is, and then I say plus Ankit, right? So here this plus will act as an operator. Now what this will do is as soon as I run this, as you can see, this is concatenating these two strings, right? So this here is a string and this here is another string, and what this one is doing is this is just concatenating the strings. Now if you want, what you can do is you can also print numbers. So I'll say 1729 and it will print that, or I can definitely do operators as well. So if I do print let's say 1000 plus 729, it will do that as well. So 1729 is known as Ramanujan's number. As you guys must have seen, it's a very significant number in mathematics. So please, if you have not, just go and probably read about it. Apart from that, we can also print floating point numbers. So we can probably do Ramanujan's number. Let's do a golden ratio. So if we do print 55 by 34, it will give me 1.61. That is the division of 55 divided by 34, as in that will be the output of that. This particular ratio is known as golden ratio. This also has significance, so you can probably look into that if you want to know more about it. Now say if I want to just print a floating point number, what I can do is just say print 1.6174, and it will do that very easily. Again, because it's English like language, so simple. Now I'll show you one thing. So if I say print true, right, and I do control enter, it will print true. But if I say print Ankit, now without providing any apostrophe as in a single column or double this thing, I hit control enter, it throws an error because this here is not a keyword. So here true acted as a keyword and will dwell into variables. So this here is not a keyword or a variable. That is why it is throwing an error. Now if I say do this and execute it, it will take it as string and then execute it successfully. So that is what is happening right now. And if I want to say do print true or false, so this here becomes an expression, right? this entire thing becomes an expression, and it is an OR operator. So what Python does is it will evaluate the output of this expression and then print that instead of true or false. If I execute it, it will print true, because if we go OR operator, what happens is if either of the values are true or one or both the values are true, it will print true, or the output will be true. Or what we can do is say print true and false, right? So again, it's evaluating the operator, and operator says if any of the values are false, it will show false. What we can do is probably we can try this as well. 5 is greater than 6. If we do this, it says false because 5 is not greater than 6, right? So what I'm trying to explain over here is this is an expression, and if you give any expression to a Python command, that expression is evaluated and then the command is executed, right? And this here, the greater than symbol is known as operator. Similarly, the plus symbol is known as operator. So this is what the basic idea is about Python, and I think should be fairly easy for you guys to understand. Now let's move on to variables, right? So here what I'll do is, because we have a lot to cover, so I'll say variables here, and inputs, we are going to talk about that as well. So, and then hit enter, right? So if it shows saving, then saving. Now we have now, as you can see here, we have created a section, right? As I was mentioning, if we go here in sections, if I expand this, it created a new section, but typically it was supposed to show me that section. I think it will load. Yeah, sorry. So you can see, right, this section is already created, variables and inputs. Now, if let me close this. If I want to create a section over here, right? So I showed you how to create a cell below, but how to create a cell or a code or text cell above, what we do is instead of going down, you can go up and then click on text. So here, if I go here and try to say we were like printing values, and if I hit enter, done. So if I do this, what it will do is it will collapse all the cells that are in this section, so that becomes easier for anyone who has not seen this code or who has not created this code to understand what is this section going to talk about. They open it, they can go through it, and then they can close it, because the notebook is going to become very lengthy, right? So that helps in understanding what is where, and the same is shown here as well. Whatever you are editing, this yellow bar will show that this is the section that you are in, and this is what you are working with, as in this section is what you are working with. Now, variables and inputs, if we talk about, right? So let's say session is equals to ATH. Let's do that, right? So if I execute this, see, nothing happened here. So actually what happened inside, right? It created a variable named session and stored the value ATH in a location inside the machine, and then created a pointer named session. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Maybe it might not making sense right now. So if I say print session here, what it will do is it will print ATH. Now, if I want to know what is the type of this variable, right? As in, what is the type of data that is stored in this variable? So what I'll do is simply print type of session, right? And if I execute this, you will see class str, right? So let's not talk about class, it's object oriented concept. Let's just focus on string right now. So it says this is of type string, as in this particular variable is of type string. Now if I do this, right, print say ID of session, and here it will show you some value. Right now, this value is the physical location of the memory where ATH is stored. Right, I'll show you with an example as well. So say I create another variable session underscore duplicate is equals to, and I store ATH again in this, right? And if I say do this print ID, and let me copy that. Sorry, my bad. Control C, Control V, Control Enter. You see the ID is same, right? So this ID is same because this is the physical value that is stored in the memory, and here we are using variables, we are just creating pointers to it. So that is why you are seeing the IDs are same. Now if I do an expression, if I say create an expression, right? So let's say print, and I am getting trained by plus session. If I execute this, you see here what it did is it wrote I am getting trained by ATH. So because this session was of type string and here we passed string, it actually concatenated it as it did for two different strings when we initially looked at the print statements, right? So it evaluated, as I was mentioning, it evaluated the expression over here using this plus operator, and it replaced the value of session in this and then did the evaluation and then printed the output. Now, second thing that you should notice here is previously, if you would have seen, I was using single quotes, right? But here I have used double quotes. So in Python, both single quotes and double quotes can be used for string. And here single quote was something that I was going to utilize in my string as well. So that is why I chose double quotes so that there is no confusion. If I do this, if I say do single quotes here, what it will think is the string value is ending with I itself, because you're starting the string here and then you're ending it over there, and it will throw an error definitely because this does not make sense to the compiler, right? So to avoid that, what we do is we start with double and then we end with double quotes so that there is no confusion, as we saw. Right now what we can do is say we can store roll number as well. So let's say roll underscore number equals to 34, let's say 34. And if I do control enter, again nothing happened. But if I want to print the value of it, I'll just go print roll underscore number, control enter, it will print it out, right? But what it won't do here is this. So if I say print my roll number is plus roll underscore number, if I execute this, it will throw an error. Now if you see the error, right, the errors are very self-explanatory in Python, and here you can see can only concatenated string and integer is not a string, because if you see the type, right, print type of roll number, it is of class integer, right? It is not of class string that this code was looking for. Now, what you can do is you can create different values as well. So I'll say golden ratio. So usually you should follow a pattern where you are actually separating your words by an underscore, or what you can do is you can capitalize the starting word. And this ratio spelling is wrong. Yeah, golden ratio. And if I say do this 55 by 34, do control enter, nothing will happen. But if I say do this print, first let's print golden ratio itself as in the value. Again, my bad. I print this, you'll see again 1.6176, the golden ratio value. If I say do print type of golden ratio, control enter, it says it's of float type because decibel is of float type in Python. Now we have also printed true and false values before, right? And I said these are keywords. So this is of type boolean. So if you see, let's say bool underscore example, and if I say true, control enter, and here I go print type bool underscore example, and this will be of type boolean, right? Now what we can do is, if we want to do something like this, right, something where we want to, let's say, copy this, let's paste it over here. Now if I want to actually write this out or print it out that my roll number is 34 as I've assigned the value before, what I'll need to do is I'll need to change the value assigned here to integer, as in this particular variable right now is of class string, but I want it to, sorry, this particular variable is of class integer and I want it to be string. And that is fairly simple. What you can do is, if you want to convert it to string, what you do is you just write str and in parenthesis the variable name or the value that you want to convert to string. Now if I do control enter, you see the same code is working, which was throwing an error over here, right? So this was one of the examples. Now say if I have value, say sample value equals to 27, sorry 26. If I do this, even though I've assigned it integer value, right? If I print type of sample value, what you will see is it is of class string because I started with quotes and ended it with quotes, right? Now if I want to convert it to integer, again I do int, close it, class int. If so, this is fairly simple. You can definitely jump from here, as in jump from string to integer to float and vice versa as well. Now let's move on to how do we take input from user, right? Now I'll say my name equals to input, what is your name, question mark. If I do this, right, you see the execution is not getting completed, and what it is doing is it is showing me a bar and asking me to enter value. So I'll enter Ankit here and I hit enter. Now the execution is complete. Now if we print, sorry, my name it will show Ankit, right? So whatever value I've inputted here, that value is stored in this particular variable. Now what I can do is I can print multiple values as well. So in one, we saw how are we going to create an expression inside any print statement or any other statement for that matter. But we can print multiple things as well. So if I separate it with a comma and then say type my underscore name and I do control enter, it will print Ankit as in the value inside my name and then the data type of the particular variable, that is string. Now here you would have noticed I did not give any quotes while entering the value, right? So input, whenever you use input, it always takes the variable as a string. So if I show you some example, let's say how many hours a day you study, right? So let's say if I say input, enter the hours you study for in a day, and if I hit control enter here and let's say I study for what, 2 hours, and hit enter, the execution is complete. If I come down, I can do hours per week as well, right? Hours per week equals to hours a day into 7 because I want to do multiplication. So in Python, multiplication is done using this symbol. So I do this and then I can say print I study for itna, let's say hours per week. Sorry, my bad. Hours per week I study for this many hours in a week. Now technically this should give me what, 14, so it should say I study for 14 hours in a week, right? Another thing is you can use multiple plus operator to concatenate multiple strings or to add or multiply or do whatever mathematical operations you want on integers and float. So if I hit control enter here, what you will see is it did not do 2 into 7. It printed pattern of 2 2 2 2 2. So here it is, if you count it, this is 2 7 times, right? So what multiplication operator in Python on string does is, if you do it like this, or say if I do it multiplied by 9, multiplied by 20, whatever, it will repeat the same string those many times. And this is not what we are interested in, right? What we want to do is we want to know how many hours the person has studied. So what we can do is, as I was mentioning, we can convert this hours a day into integer and then it should work fine. So to convert it into integer, what we'll do is int like this, do control enter, and then execute this. And if we execute this, it will throw an error. Yes. Again, the same error is this particular value is of type integer now. As you can see from here, it is not string anymore. So to print this out, what we'll have to do is we will have to make it a string. So if I do str and then execute it, You see, I study for 14 hours in a week. So it's fairly simple. It's just that you need to take care of different data types and you're not like jumping off from one to another, right? So even if you do that, Python will try to assist you. It will try to throw error, and the error is quite self-explanatory. So you should not face any issues as such. Now let's move on to processing, like processing different data types. So we'll probably create another this thing, processing data types, and let it save. Now let's say the topic of this webinar is introduction to Python. If I execute this, it will save introduction to Python in topic. If I say print topic, control enter, you can say it says introduction to Python. Now, if I do this, right, print topic 0, right, and if I do this, right, here you see only I is printed. So string in Python is actually treated as an array. Here what I am doing is I am calling the very first element of the array that is stored in the variable topic, and hence it is showing I. Now if I want to say call what third expression, sorry, third expression, I'll have to give 2 because the indexing in Python starts from 0. So if I do third, so you can see 1, 2, 3, third is T, it shows T. Similarly, if I want to do 10th, I write 10 over here, execute this. The 10th word is of introduction is what I'm guessing. We can probably count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, it is the 11th word, right? Because the indexing starts from 0. Now, if you want to print or get the last value of topic, what you can do is you can do -1. Now, as soon as I do -1, it will show n. N is the last word of this thing. Now, if I do -2, right, what will happen is it will start counting from the last. So if I do -2, you see it is on O, right? There is no issue as such. Now, apart from that, what we can do is we can print a set of variables as well. Sorry, a set of values as well. So say if I want to print topic values starting from 2 up till 10, I can do that as well, and it will do it. Now we will talk about processing, right? So here what we'll do is we'll try to let's say we do this, we try to do everything in lowercase. So here you can do topic dot lower, and if I do control enter, you will see the entire string is in lowercase, right? When I inputted the string, it has capital I, but now that capitalization is also gone. So that is what it does. Now, if I print topic, right, the topic will retain the original value, as you can see. What we have done is we have just modified the value on the fly. We have not stored it anywhere. Now, similarly, what we can do is if we want everything to be in uppercase, we can do print topic dot upper and execute it. See, everything will be in uppercase. Right? Now we move forward and I'll introduce another thing. So let's say if I want to work on topic, as in the variable topic, if I do dot, what it will do is it will give me all the operations that I can do on this particular variable that are inherently supported by Python. Right? And if you want to select any of this, or if you are looking for any of this, what you can just do is, let's say is lower. What you can do is you just click on that, give the parenthesis, this says this is a function call, and execute it. Now it says false because all the values in topic are not in lowercase, right? We do one thing. If we say do print topic dot, here what you see is we have used is lower, all of it is given. Now let's see which one should we use. We can use is upper. So if we use is upper, right, what it will do is it will try to find if all the values are in uppercase or not, and it should show the documentation as well, which for some reason is not loading over here. It's loading for only replace, but once you hover over there, it shows the documentation associated with that function as well. So again, I'll do this, I execute it, and as soon as I execute it, it says false because it is definitely not in uppercase. What we can do is now we will try to store it so that there is no issue as such. Now as soon as I write you, it will give me suggestion. I just, if say there are multiple suggestions, say if I write I, right, sorry, it took some time to load the suggestions. So if I say I, if I want to do index or if I want to do anything else, I can just go over there and then hit tab. It will get that function in place. So in that fashion, it becomes very easy. So if we do upper, control enter, and if we try to print is upper now, it will show true because all the values in this are upper. Now here, as mentioning, right, it was showing is upper. Now, and because all the values are in uppercase, let me just print that out so that becomes easier to understand. So if I print topic, you see all the string values are in uppercase and nothing is in lowercase, right? Now, what else we can do is, say if you want to find a string inside this string, right? If you want to know where, like, does this string or does your sample string exist in the given string or not? So what you can do here is, I'm just using print everywhere, but this is what the basic advantage of Python is. So you do topic, you want to find again. So you do dot find, you go inside. What do you want to find? So let's say I want to find Python, right? Now, if I execute this, this says -1. Why does this say -1? Is because Python in this format does not exist in this string. Now, one important thing I want to highlight over here is Python itself is a case sensitive language. So a Python written like this and a Python written like this, where only single character or the starting character is capitalized and everything else is not. And if you compare it with something which has everything capitalized, Python will treat them separately. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. If I say print topic.find, and if I do Python, you are seeing 16. So if you do this dot find and you get a negative value, that means that particular string that you are looking for does not exist in your given string. But if it gives you something positive like 16, then this is actually the index from where this particular string starts in here. So if we count, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And because it starts from 0, right? So your Python starts with 16. And that is what this shows. Right? What we can do is we can also replace values here. So we can do print topic dot replace. Now, what do I want to replace? Let's say I want to replace, sorry, you have to keep all that, Python with say R, right? And if I do this, instead of introduction to Python, it has become introduction to R. The important point to note is if I again print topic, it will still be introduction to Python because I have not overwritten the value in topic. What I have done is I have only changed the output on the fly, right? I created an expression and the evaluation of that expression yields to this. That is introduction to R. So that is the only thing that I have done. Right now, let's say we do have golden underscore ratio, right? Let me print that. Do we still have it or should we create the variable? So this variable was something that I created initially. Sorry for that. And yes, so it is still in this memory. So golden ratio, and say if I say is underscore integer, let's say that. So we know this is not an integer value, right? This is a float value, and if I execute this, you see this is false, right? Now, if I say, what else can we do? We can look at that. Now we can say as in let's do as integer ratio. So what as integer ratio does is, this is an integer value, right? 1.61. So it will try to give us two numbers, and if we divide those two numbers, the value will be equal to the ratio that we have given. So if I do control enter, these are the two values that we are getting. So initially we were getting, like, we created this ratio by doing 55 by 34, but here we are getting like very big two values, right? That happens because Python inherently does not save the entire output. So the 1.61, whatever that we saw, right? So let me print that out quickly. 55 by 34, control enter. So 1.617, whatever till, so this is an irrational number, right? So it is going to go till infinity, but Python actually rounds it off to certain decimal value. And that decimal value is what it will try to recreate. And that is why we are not getting 55 and 34 here, but two different numbers. So let me just quickly divide them out and show you what I am talking about. So here, if you see, the division is yielding the exact same result. That is because, again, the data or the value that is stored in Python is actually rounded off till this value. And if you want to create this exact value, you will not get it by dividing 55 by 34, but because it's again irrational and it will go till infinity. Whereas if you do division of these two numbers, it will create this exact decimal value, and that is what this exact float value. That is what a Python did. Now, another thing to note here is if you look at this output, right, this is not giving me one number or two numbers. If when I printed two things simultaneously using a comma in between, I here there is no comma separation, or the values are not enclosed in small parentheses, right? But if you go here, you see that is what the case is. So this is actually a mixed data type in Python that is known as tuple, right? Tuple is not part of this course's purview, but still I just want to highlight that this is a tuple and not a simple variable or anything of that sort, right? uh, does that make sense? Cool. I think that is fine. Now, if we say want to do a integer division, right? So if I want to just get the integer part of 55 by 34, what I'll do is I'll give two slashes or two divisions, and if I enter this, what it will do is it will just give me the integer piece of it, right? Whereas if let's say if I do comma and 55 by 34, again you see the only the integer part and then the entire division part. Now if you want to get just the remainder, right, so what you can do is you use percentage symbol and you should be good to go. So if you divide these two numbers, the remainder will be 22. For obvious reason, 22 plus 34 is 55, right? Now, if you want to say find cube of something, what you can do is print 2 to the power 3, and this is how you calculate the powers, right? Like in Python, this is how you calculate power. Now, I think this is fine. Let's move on to blocks session. So I'll stop here for a bit. If anyone has any question, you can probably take that. Cool. There is no question, so we'll probably proceed. Create one more section named blocks, and I think it is better if we name the block, give the value itself. So we will be talking about if blocks, if, for, and while block. So this is what we'll be talking about now. Let's say hours underscore per week, underscore per week. So this is something that we had already created. Let's print the value in this, and along with that, type of it. Okay, sorry, I did not close the parenthesis here, so that is why the error. So okay, this is like values stored as 14, and this is of class integer, right? Now what I will introduce is I'll introduce the concept of blocks here. Now if I say if hours per week is greater than 10, right? Here you see I ended it with a colon, and as soon as I hit enter, I did not get to the start of the cell. Instead, two spaces were added here. Right? What I would like to highlight is Python works on indentation, right? And indentation can be provided with single space, double space, or tab spaces. But what we should do is we should always indent our code with 4 spaces in Python. So if you go to that settings tab and in editor, right, it will give indentation with spaces and it will save, like initially the value would be 2, but you modify it to 4 and then you click on save. Now if I here there were only 2 spaces, so I'll remove this, I'll go back up, and then if I hit enter, you see I have got 4 spaces, right? Now what I can do is I will write print. I think I had already created my name, right? Variable my underscore name, and we can do plus you are doing well, right? Or probably keep up the good work, like whatever. So here if I execute this, you see it is showing Ankit you are doing well, right? Now if I say modify the value of hours per week, now hours per week, let's say it is 9, and if I execute this again, it executed successfully, but nothing was printed. That is because it evaluated this expression. Now, previously hours per week was 14. So if hours per week, as in that is 14 is greater than 10. So if I do, is 14 greater than 10? That is correct, it is. Then print this statement. But in this case, hours per week was modified to 9. Now, is 9 greater than 10? The answer is no. And that is why I did not print anything. Now, if I hit enter and then remove the indentation. Now, what this shows is I am not inside the if statement anymore. So whatever condition that has been applied in this block is not applicable to me. I'll show you an example. So we'll say print, let's say outside, right? Outside if I execute this, you see outside if is printed, but not the value that is in here. Now, if we want, like if we have say 2 conditions, and if we want to do that, or if we want to have, if this is true then print this, if not then print something else, right? So we'll copy this, probably it will be easier, paste it, go back, we say else, and after else, I'm sorry, after else we again give colon so that Python knows the block, another block is starting. Print my underscore name, you need to up your game, or something like that. So here it will print, Ankit, you need to up your game, right? So this is how the basic if block works, if and else values that you do. And another thing I'll show you is if you are not able to trace the value of this and you're not able to understand whether what is the output of this, another thing that you can do is you copy that as I did and you put it in print. You put it here and you just execute it. It will show you the output, whether it's true or false. So with this, you will be able to understand if this block is going, as in how this block is going to behave. And if it is behaving in a certain way and you're not able to figure out, you can again look at this and then you'll be able to figure out how this block is behaving. Now let's move on to for block. So if I say for I in range 5, and then I do print I, right? So here for is a looping construct. So before executing this, what I want to do is I want to show you guys what exactly a looping as in I want to explain what exactly a looping construct is. So a looping construct is something in which you want to execute a statement multiple times. and not once. Like till here, what we were doing was we were just executing the statement once. But in looping construct, what happens is you execute the statement multiple times. So as soon as I hit Control Enter, you will see instead of getting just one output, right? Previously we were just getting one output till as in before this. Now you are saying you are getting multiple values, right? Till 0 to 4. Now, if you want to know what does a range function do, there is a quick trick in Python as well. What you do is you do this, you execute it. Here, it will open the documentation for this function as soon as you do this. So if you go through the documentation, you will understand range can be given in three ways. One is range and stop value. That is what I did. So I gave range and stop value was 5. So it stopped at fourth value because again, it started from 0. So it actually printed 5 values. So that's one. Another is you can give a start value. So I did not give any start value here. So it started with default 0. But if you wanted to start with say 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, whatever the value may be, you can do that and give a stop value. That can happen. And third way is you can give steps. So how you can give steps is if I do this, let me just close help window. If I do this and say I start with 2, I want to say end at 20 and I want to go in 2 steps. And if I do this, now look at what happens. Instead of going sequentially, it actually started with 2 instead of 0 and then incremented in 2 steps of 2. Also, it did not print 20 because the last value, as in the stop value, is always excluded. So 18 plus 2 is 20, and that's why it excluded that 20. Right? Now, let's try a simple situation where we are trying to create a Fibonacci series. Okay. So I think everyone knows what Fibonacci series is, but I'll still give a brief introduction. So Fibonacci series is a series where you add two previous values and then generate the next value. So here we will start with 1. So like 1 plus 1, 2, फिर 2 plus 1 is 3, फिर 3 plus 2 is 5, and so on and so forth. Now let's try and print Fibonacci series using loop. So print A, print B, so that we get 1, 1. Now for I in range 10, let's just print it 10 times, right? I in range 10, let's say temp equals to A plus B because we want to have the next value. I'm sorry. And then A will become B and B will become temp, right? And then we want to print temp. We do control enter. You see 1, 1, 1, 2, 3. So 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, and so on and so forth, right? Now, this construct is done, as in for construct is used when you know after what point you want to stop. Like you knew after 10 steps I want to stop. There is another looping construct named as while construct, which is used when you don't know how many steps it will take, but there is a termination condition instead of that. So if we want to do same, A equals to 1, B equals to 1, then we do print A, print B. Then what we can do is, let's start with I equals to 2 while B is less than, let's say, Ramachandran's number 1729. We start the block. Again, same temp. We do this. One thing is we need to modify I as well. So I here is acting as counter. Okay, now if I do this, okay, yeah, sorry, my bad, I did not provide space over there. If I do this is what it executes. Now you will say that 2584 is greater than 1729. This situation is happening because 1597, so loop executed, and at 1597 it checked whether 1597 is less than 1729 or not. And because it was less than 1729, it executed the loop again. And as it executed the loop again, what happened is we printed temp again, as in the value of b, and which was 2584. And then it checked whether 2584 is less than 1729 or not. And as soon as it checked that, because again 2584 is greater than 1729, it exited the loop. Why I used I here is because I would want to know the total count of printed numbers, right? So I'll say printed, let's give space here, I numbers, and if I execute this, okay, yeah. So it says printed 18 numbers. The error was because I is not a string and I was trying to concatenate different strings. So that is why that happened, right? And why did I start I with 2 is because I had already taken 2 numbers in account. That is why I started I with 2, and then I was incrementing I with every execution of the loop. Another way of writing this is the shorthand way, is instead of writing I equals to I plus 1, what you can do is you can write I plus equal to 1. And if you do this and execute it, you will see the output is same. It's just a shorthand format of writing same I equal. So this denotes I equals to I plus 1. People write in different fashion, like whatever they are comfortable with. So I'll take a pause here. If any of you has any question, you can probably ask now, or else we'll just move on to the final topic of this webinar. Cool. No questions. Then we'll finally move to functions. So let's create another section named functions. Get code. So why are functions used, right? So till here, whatever functions we saw, like upper, lower, or is upper, is lower, those are functions that were inherently provided by Python and not by us, right? Now, if say we have a task that we want to do repeatedly in our code, for that what we do is we create functions. So how do we create functions is we start with the keyword named def, and then we give the name of a function. So let's do a Fibonacci function itself. So let's say Fibonacci function. So this here becomes the name of the function. And then what value do we want to take as input? So let's say we want to take position, like what will be the value at nth position of the function. So that is, sorry, at the Fibonacci series. So that is what the function will do. Now here also what we'll do is, let's just copy this. And paste it here. Okay, so you, whenever you're doing that, what you have to do is you'll have to take care of the indentation as well, right? So better than this, I'll actually write it because the indentation is gone completely. So here you come here and then you say for I in range. Now the range should go up till the nth value, right? Because we want to know the nth value of the series. So what we do is we say position, because that is what the parameter that we are taking in our function. And again, temp equals to a plus b, then your a equals to b, and your b equals to temp. Now what you need to do is you would need to return a value from your function. So here what I am doing is I am returning the temp value, which will hold the nth value of the Fibonacci series, or the value on that position. And as soon as I hit Control Enter, you see nothing happened, but this function got created. Now, if I want to call this function, what I do is say print Fibonacci. Let's say I want to know what is the value at first position, will be too easy. Let's say fourth position, right? If I execute it, it says 8. Now we can count, right? It will start from 2 because 1 and 1 is like the starting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So on fourth position, your value is 8. That is what it is showing, right? If you want to say do a confirmation, what you can do is what Fibonacci, we did 4, we can do 3, and copy this. Along with that, we can do 2. So, and then I execute this. So here you see the third and second value are 5 and 3, and the fourth value is 4, which we can confirm from here as well. And if you add these two values, as in the third and the second value, you get the fourth value, which is confirming that this is correct. Right now, say I want to divide the first value with the second value and then create the output of it. So what I can do is for I in range, let's say I want to do it for 20 values, and what I can do is I'll say ratio equals to Fibonacci. I have initialized the variable I divided by Fibonacci I minus 1. So the reason I took I from 2 is because if I take it 1, it will become 0, and that will not yield any value. And then I would want to print ratio, right? And if I execute this, if I execute this, you will see it is giving the division value. What you notice is the output here, as in the division value here, starts to stabilize. And this is like it stabilizes near the golden ratio. And one of the significance of that is like it tries to stabilize this near golden ratio. As in initially we'll see there are a few variations, but as soon as we go down, it starts stabilizing, right? So this is one type of function. Another type of function is recursion, as in a recursive function. So here what you're doing is you've just created a function, and then you have used other functions which are created outside of this function, and then tried to achieve the task that is at hand. Now say if you want to use the same function, right, that is called recursion, as in you'll call the same function again and again instead of writing all that. So I'll say Fibo underscore recursive, we'll say position, then we can probably take A as input and B as input. Like if you want to give the starting values as well, you can do that. So why I want to show you this is because it's not like you can only take one input for your function or one parameter for your function. You can take multiple parameters for your functions as well. So here what you do is, if your position is greater than 1, then you return the same, as in it's another call. Here what you do is you do pos -1, you are decrementing your position, then b, which is your this assignment, and then your a plus b, sorry, plus a plus b, which is your temp assignment, right? And if that is not the case, what you do is you just return a plus b. Cool. Now if I execute this, nothing happens because again I have defined a function. But now let's call this function. So I'll say print pivo recursive. Sorry. Let's say you want third value and your starting values are 1 and 1. So if my starting values are 1 and 1, my third value is 5. So again, 1 and 1. So 1, 2, 3 is 5. Right? Now, say if I do this, I only pass 3 and not your starting values, as in it is expecting A and B as well, right? So here the error explicitly says that Fibo recursive is missing 2 required arguments, that is your A and B, and that is why it is giving error. To solve this, what we can do is we can assign default values to these parameters as well. So how to do that? I'll say recursive default, and here after A I'll say A equals to 1, after B I'll say B equals to 1. For position also we can assign a default value, but then it will not be of much use, so I'm not doing that, but you can do it as well. So here I've executed this. Now let me call the same function with just position value. So here if I execute this, you will see the output is 5. That is why, because even if you did not supply those 2 arguments, these 2 arguments became optional and they had a default value. So what it did is it executed based on those default value and then returned whatever you were looking for. So this is how you write a recursive function. Usually recursive functions are not very much advised to write because they are complicated and they create multiple calls, right? Because if you look at here, say when we gave 3, it will come here, then it will call the same function again at position value 2, and then again at 1, and then it will start collecting the output. So it becomes redundant, and second thing is it becomes very difficult sometimes to actually debug such functions. So that is why this particular function is not very much advised and people usually don't write such functions. So that is all I had for today's seminar. And if you want to like practice something on this, whatever has been taught, what you can do is probably you can try inputting different weights and height and try to calculate BMI or factorial using functions, right? You can do such things and you'll be able to practice whatever has been taught in this webinar.